Well, great. Thanks for everybody for joining us today. Curtis Howe with Smart Social. Love helping you to understand how to build your business better. So on top of us helping with social media, I got a good friend of mine with me here, Jason Kaywood, and he does a lot with sales and sales training. So Jason, you want to introduce yourself a little bit and what you do?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So Jason Kaywood, I own a company called Sandler Training. We do a lot of things, but our main focus is around sales and sales management training. We do some other things, leadership and customer service, but yeah, main focus on sales and sales training.
And I love this because we do a little bit different types of things. So this is going to be really good to work together on this.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's talk about our topic for today that we wanted to go over is understanding why follow-up is so important. Now, that's my background is in sales. I've done direct sales. My degree is in sales. I've done a lot with that. And now I do a lot more in the marketing space, but I still do sales for my own company and do some advice, for our clients to help them out. But the thing that I know, and I've seen this in all the sales books that I've been reading over the years, is follow-up is so key to the success of a salesperson and getting your sales happening. And it really is one of the habits that just business people have a hard time with. And this is one area that I've really focused on because it's such a problem to differentiate myself when I was in sales is making sure I was really good with the follow-up. And it has worked out a lot. Jason, what about your experience in helping train salespeople around why is follow-up so important and what can that do when a salesperson actually does follow up and work with their clients more?
Sure. No, great question. And yeah, it is critical. So prior to starting this business, I was in healthcare sales for 15 years. And I was actually a client of Sandler for 12 of those years as well. So I experienced a lot of this myself. But one thing that hit me probably halfway through that 15-year period was as I was going into these doctors' offices, reaching out to the nurses, the physicians, medical assistants, it hit me that I wasn't only competing against my company's direct competitors. I was competing against their viewpoint, their memory of every salesperson they had ever dealt with. So most salespeople, I hate to say it, most salespeople are not great, right? So let's pretend I said, hey, I'm going to bring you these order forms by Friday. Let's say it's Tuesday, so I'm going to bring these to you by Friday. Well, if I didn't bring them until the following week, consciously, that nurse or medical assistant, probably not a big deal. But subconsciously, they're going to remember that. And if I would continue that behavior of not really following up when I said I would or taking a little bit longer or whatever that may be, eventually those subconscious thoughts were going to come to the front of their mind. They're like, you know what? Jason's just like everybody else. All these other salespeople, never does what he says he's going to do, never follows up on time. So on the one hand of things, I think we need to realize that it's a bigger deal than just the singular interaction we're having in the moment, right? We are going up against all their interactions with other salespeople, okay? But on the other hand, let's look at just the singular interaction. People do business with people that they like and trust, right? We know this. So one of the best ways we can slowly start to build that trust is simply by doing what we say we're going to do, following up properly. One other thing I learned earlier in my career was, let's ask the prospect, how would they like us to follow up, right? If we don't have clearly defined next steps, what should we do? Do they prefer we follow up via email? Do they prefer we follow up with a phone call, in person, right? I got to a point, again, back in healthcare, we dealt with very, very rare disease states. So I could meet with an office and they might love me and, want to give me their firstborn child. But that next patient might not walk through their door for 2 or 3 months. So eventually I got to the point where I would just ask them, hey, listen, I know it's going to take a while for you to remember me and for us to solidify this relationship. And I know that next patient might not walk through for a few months. What's the best way for me to follow up that I stay front of mind, but that I'm not annoying? Right? I would just get it out there and say it. So I think if we don't have clear next steps, which I'll get into that in a second. If we don't have clear next steps, it's okay to ask them, how would you like me to follow up? When would you like me to follow up? Right? Sometimes we get brushed off, right? Oh, hey, follow up with me in 6 months. Okay, well, at a minimum, yeah, follow up with them. But maybe even before that, when they say that to you, ask them, hey, Curtis, I appreciate that. What do you think will be different in 6 months that would be, maybe a good reason for me to follow up with you? What do you think will have changed by that point that it would make sense for us to have a conversation? Right? So at any rate, I think it's okay to involve the prospect when it comes to follow-up, involve and how they want it to be done to show respect for them, but also respect for our time. If that makes sense.
No, I love that. In fact, those are really good questions to think about when you talk with people that, it's not just about you doing what you do. It's about realizing that there's a give and take in this. A really good salesperson realizes this isn't a transaction. This is a person I'm dealing with. Yeah. And I need to work with that person to get the transaction. So when you start to think that way, then this follow-up makes more sense to help them and realize that it does, like what you talk to about here is there's really two major things that happen with follow-up. One is you're establishing that relationship with them, and you are helping them to see that you are trustworthy and that you have integrity in what you do. Because if they say, hey, call me back next week, okay, I'll be more happy to call you back next week, and you call them back next week, they get that. They know that, oh my gosh, this person is listening to me for one thing, but then they actually do what they say they're going to do. That translates well, because when the sale happens, they need to know that if they need to contact somebody to get help on something, they can trust you and they can rely on you. So if you're always missing those follow-up appointments, then that causes problems. And I know as a person that I get sold to as a business owner, people are calling me saying, I want to have you, work with our stuff or use our products as well. And if I say, hey, give me a call back in 2 weeks, and I'll, that might be a better time, my schedule might be more open or something. Part of it in my mind too, because I understand this, is, are they going to call me in 2 weeks? And if they do, that's good. That helps me to see them as more important. If they don't, then I know I'm not that important to them. And that helps me to realize what's going on with that. So the other thing that I thought was really great about what you said on asking those questions too is not only is it helping, like you're talking about with getting the relationship established with them and have them see you as value, is also helping them to, and I like those questions because those questions that you said are really specific to helping them understand that you want to be helpful for them. It's a relationship, not a transaction. And so I just love that, how all that comes together. And I know in my experience, like I said, I get people asking me stuff all the time. And when I was the salesperson, I always wanted to make sure that I did the follow-up. So if I said, I'm going to send you an email, or if I said, I'm going to call you in 2 weeks, that I would do that. And I put it on my calendar and made sure that I did follow up. And even if I didn't have anything, like they just said, let me mull this over and I'll call you back, I still would put a note in there that said, okay, if they haven't called you in, say, 2 weeks or sent you an email, reply back to them. Just say, hey, just want to make sure if you had any questions or things. So follow-up is super, super important from helping the customer see you as value. But I also see follow-up as super important because if you think about it, that lead costs money to the business. And if you don't follow up, you're just throwing it away. We had a client that we were working with, and they wanted a bunch of leads, and we fell just like 1 or 2 leads shy of what they wanted to hit of their goal for this 1 month. And they're like, I don't think this is going to work, so we're going to turn off all the stuff that we're doing with you. And I'm like, well, but we almost got you enough leads. I mean, that was just 1 month on an ad on Facebook. I think they wanted 10 leads, and we got them like 8 or 9 leads. So still pretty good amount of leads, but not exactly what they wanted. But it was only our first month, so we'd continue to dial it in and make it better as we go. But they're like, no, I don't think that's going to work. And none of them turned into any business for us. And I'm like, well, did you call them? Yeah, I sent them all a text. Okay, great. But after that text, what did you do? They said, nothing. I just waiting for them to call me. And I'm like, dude, come on. You
Yep.
can't do that. You have to do the follow-up. It's that whole lead a horse to water idea. You've got to work with them and help out. This is money on the line, and you need to make sure that you are reaching out to them and doing that. And sometimes people are like, "Oh, call me in 6 months." Great. I'm going to put it on my calendar. Call back in 6 months. And they're shocked. I actually get a lot of surprises from people going, "Man, thank you for following up. I totally forgot about you. And, when I told you 6 months, I just kind of threw it out there and you actually called me back in 6 months. Oh my gosh." But it
Yep.
makes them realize that what you're doing is important. And now they have more emphasis and to realize maybe I should listen to this person as well.
No, absolutely. And I think one thing that is kind of underneath all this is I don't think salespeople forget to follow up for malicious reasons, right? I think in a
Yeah.
lot of cases, it's they don't have a system, right? There's a lack of system. So what does that look like? Maybe, that's where people need to start. If somebody's, watching this or listening to this and they're like, man, I'm not following up as much as I could. Okay, well, yeah, what is your system? Like you said, it could be as simple as if somebody says, yeah, follow up with me in December. All right, well, that moment you go into your calendar and you put a little thing on, Monday morning, December 15th at 8 a.m., I'm going to follow up with so-and-so, or if they've got a CRM, whatever it is. So, I think sometimes people trust their memory a little too much, and we just need to do a better job of, yeah, how can we systematize it so that those things don't fall through the cracks? And one thing I want to say to show the other side of that coin of that example, where if we don't do what we say we're going to do, well, when we do the things we say we're going to do, I also believe that initially it doesn't catch their attention consciously, but it still gets locked in subconsciously. And if we continue to do it over and over and over, eventually it will come to the forefront of their mind again. And they say, man, Curtis is amazing. Curtis does follow up. Curtis is like my favorite salesperson I've ever dealt with. Jennifer, years ago, Curtis reminds me of how she used to do things, right? And so we've got to slowly continue to do things over and over and over. And eventually, people will realize, oh, no, this is a good one. This is somebody that really cares, and I do want to work with this person.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It does really help people. You stand out more because you follow up. You're not just, if you think about it, a lot of times they blow you off just to blow you off at the first because they don't want to see a salesperson. They're not interested in sales. So that's kind of a bad, the traditional myth of salespeople is they're just slick and bad and you shouldn't talk to them. But if you follow up and you show that I'm interested in working with you, that's that persistency. And that really helps them to go, maybe I should talk to them. Maybe I should get this, figure out what they're selling because maybe this is a good thing for me. So it does help tremendously with that. And I totally agree with you that I think a lot of the problem is the salesmen don't have a system in place to help with a follow-up.
Yeah.
Whether it's just using the calendar app on your phone or you use like a CRM or something else. I know like for me, even in emails, I use an email service. I have an email client that I use that they allow me to schedule emails to come back into my inbox.
Oh, wow.
And so it's called Spark, I think, I use it for Mac. And it works great because then if somebody's like, hey, call me back on this, let's email me back in August. Great. I will actually have that email thread come back into my inbox in early August. And then I'll see it and go, okay, and read through the thread and go, oh, that's right. I'm not going to respond back to him. So there's lots of things you can do, whether that's, like a Salesforce type CRM, big supply stuff or small stuff. Like I use Pipedrive a lot. I love Pipedrive. And there's lots of other ones, Sugar CRM and others that do a great job, but have a way to do that. And take the habit of putting it in. When I had salespeople, that was their biggest problem is they would not go to the system to type the stuff in. And I'm like, dude, the end of the day, you need to just finish the paperwork. You got to type all this stuff in. Whether you do it in the moment is ideal, but at least at the end of the day, you have to comment on all those sales calls. What happened? What's going on? What's the next steps? So that it gets it out of your brain. Because I totally agree. I think we sometimes think, oh, I just remember to do that in 6 months. Baloney, dude. If I asked you, what did you have for dinner 2 days ago? You probably can't remember that anyways, let alone what did you eat 6 months ago? So unless there's some kind of a major impact, it's not going to be there. So follow-up is so important.
Absolutely.
So
And
important.
I want to give you one last model that a colleague of mine gave to me. Okay. a tactical thing people could actually use. Now, keep in mind, Sandler, we have a different kind of communication system and terminology, so I'll use a little bit of that, but I'll make it applicable to anybody. So this colleague of mine, what he does is if he has had a conversation with a prospect where they have fully uncovered their pain and quantified it, okay, then he'll do this with them. Now, this could mean it's a prospect that eventually said no, or maybe it's a client that ended up, not working with them anymore and they're a former client. So for them to make it on his list that I'm about to share with you, they had to have a significant pain discussion. But here's what he does. He calls it his 30-day file. He simply puts them in a spreadsheet, right? And obviously the detail, who he spoke with, the company, blah, blah, blah. But he has dedicated one day out of every month. Just, you want to pick a date, right? The 27th of the month. And on that day, he personally will email everyone on that list. Now, it could be that he's got an upcoming executive briefing that he wants to invite him to. It could be, hey, Curtis, I saw you said something about this on LinkedIn. Congratulations. That's awesome. Okay. But he does it like clockwork. And he said he's been doing this about 7 years. And he's got anywhere from 70 to 90 people on that list at a time. But he said he is regularly closing 2 pieces of business every month from that list.
Wow.
And there are some people on there, he's told me, they didn't say a word to him for 3 years. And then all of a sudden, hey, I think it's time that we talk.
Wow.
Hey, I want to have a conversation. So yes, there's all sorts of, again, kind of CRM ways and email campaigns and all that. But these are a smaller but more specified group that he would do this with. So I started doing it about 4 months ago, or maybe a little bit longer than that. But my day is actually the 27th. Every 27th of the month. Now, I have to be proactive. Let's pretend that 27th falls on a Saturday and I don't want to work on Saturday or whatever. I might write them on Friday and schedule them to go out. Sure.
Yeah.
But every 27th of the month, this list, that I send them something, and there you go. So I wanted to give that out as something that a colleague of mine shared with me and could be a tactical approach that anyone that sees this or hears this could utilize.
I love that. I think that's a great idea. And I'd say that just for those people who are watching that are more tech savvy, because they're going to think about that idea and go, dude, I could totally automate that. I could completely set that in like a MailChimp or something and with was that Boomerang in Google Apps and stuff, and just totally automate that. And I would say, I like the idea of automating that, but you want to realize that if it's the same, like if you're just putting a same message in all the time, that is going to ruin it for you. You want to make sure that there is thought put into that. So make it a little more organic. Like you said, if there's an event coming up or if there's something else, so that it's different every month. If it's the same thing every month, you're going to have problems.
No, you're hitting it on the head, and I appreciate you, shining a light on that part of it. And that is, again, the gentleman that shared this with me, he said it now takes him a couple hours at a time, right?
I believe
it. It's a decent investment, but they are individual, they are personalized. Yes, and they are not part, of course, they have that larger, marketing arm of their business, right? But this is somebody that he is one of the top performers in the world. He is an unbelievable trainer and coach and just does a tremendous job in dealing with large clients around the world. And he still takes the time to do it individually and make it very personal.
I like that. I think that's a great opportunity to help people out. So the moral of the story is follow up, guys. Reach out to your clients, talk with them more often. And especially if that are just leads, following up with your clients to do other extra sales, follow-on sales is really important too. But follow up with your leads. There's money behind those. They got, there's money that was paid to generate those. Work them. If you don't, then they're going to have problems. And even if they tell you no, it's important to realize that a no just means not yet. That's all it means in the world of sales. They just don't have enough information to say yes. So that's where follow-up can help out, whether that is like a newsletter campaign, to kind of a drip campaign to go out to them because they're, we want to kind of warm them back up again, or whether you do more personalized stuff where you're sending an actual email one at a time to people that is personalized to them, or whatever you do, have a system to follow up, work with people. and realize that if there's anything you can do in the world of sales to stand out, the follow-up is probably one of the number one things that you can do. So that's important. So make sure you guys take that away and stay tuned for some more fun videos from us as well.
Really appreciate it. I'm Jason Kaywood with Sandler Training. If you need more information or have any other questions, you can go to my website, cc.sandler.com, or just reach out to me directly, 385-256-5069. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Yes, and thank you guys so much for watching these. We want to make sure we provide good, valuable information to you to help you in growing your business. So if you want to follow more of the videos that we have out there, come follow us on YouTube with Smart Social, SMRT. Love to help you out with that. We do social media marketing. So if you need help with doing social media or teaching your team how to do it better with our own coaching or just management, we'd love to help you out with that. So follow us on all the social sites, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can watch more videos from us as we continue to provide more value